Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question that might just ruin your night or change your life forever. Would you rather be a happy loser or a stressed winner? Think about it. It's not a trick question. It's a mirror held up to your soul. Most people would like to believe there's a comfortable middle ground, a way to be at peace while still achieving greatness. But that's not how life works. Life doesn't reward balance, it rewards obsession. It rewards sacrifice. It rewards those who are willing to suffer for something greater than comfort. Now, I know what the world tells you. Choose happiness, choose peace, choose what feels right. That's the soft generation talking. That's the self-help fantasy fed to people who've never built anything but excuses. Real success, measurable, tangible, world-changing success doesn't come wrapped in peace. It comes with blood pressure spikes, sleepless nights, and battles in your own mind. The truth is, success is stressful, and if it's not, you're not pushing hard enough. I say this as someone who spent decades studying the brain, how it fires, how it adapts, how it breaks under pressure and rebuilds itself stronger. Neuroscience has proven that our brains grow through stress. Neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to rewire itself, happens most powerfully in the presence of challenge, not comfort. Comfort kills growth. You don't build new neural pathways binge watching Netflix. You build them when you're on the edge, when you're scared, when you feel like you're about to break, and yet you don't. Let's talk about the happy loser for a moment. The happy loser convinces himself that peace is progress. He says, at least I'm content, but deep down, he knows the truth. Contentment is the coffin of potential. It's a velvet-lined box that feels good to lie in, but it's still a box. He rationalizes mediocrity as balance, he calls laziness self-care, and he mistakes numbness for peace. He doesn't argue with life anymore because he's already surrendered. Now contrast that with the stressed winner. The stressed winner is restless. His mind doesn't stop racing. He lies awake at 3 a.m. thinking, how can I make this better? How can I go further? The world calls him obsessed, maybe even unstable. But that's because the world measures sanity by conformity. The truth is that tension, the friction between who you are and who you could be, is the birthplace of greatness. The stressed winner may not always be smiling, but he's alive. His neurons are on fire. His soul is in motion. I once worked with a surgeon who embodied this paradox. A brilliant man. He told me he hadn't taken a vacation in 12 years. 12. His colleagues said he was insane, but you know what else they said about him? That he was the best in the country. He saved lives others couldn't. He carried a quiet storm inside him. Discipline, drive, precision. When I asked him how he kept going, he said, I'd rather live 1 decade at full voltage than 5 at half power. That's the mindset of a stressed winner. He wasn't chasing comfort, he was chasing legacy. Now let's step back and look at this neurologically. When the brain experiences stress, the amygdala, the emotional center, lights up like a Christmas tree. Cortisol floods the bloodstream, adrenaline kicks in, and the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for decision-making, goes into high gear. For most people, this is where they fold. They interpret stress as danger, but high performers interpret it as data. They train their brains to see pressure not as a threat, but as a signal to adapt. They use stress as a tool. They learn to ride it. You see, happiness is not the opposite of stress. In fact, some of the happiest moments in life come after the hardest battles. The birth of a child, the launch of a business, the recovery after nearly losing everything. Those moments are soaked in stress, but they're also soaked in meaning. The brain's reward circuitry doesn't light up when you avoid struggle. It lights up when you overcome it. Dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, they're not rewards for sitting still. They're rewards for victory. A happy loser is never truly happy. His brain knows he's lying to himself. There's a quiet dissonance inside him, a background hum of regret. He feels it every time he scrolls past someone doing what he said he'd do someday. Every time he watches someone else win, a little voice whispers, that could have been you. And that's the most toxic form of stress, unlived potential. It eats at you from the inside out. There's a fascinating study out of Harvard that followed graduates over 75 years, the longest longitudinal study in human history. They wanted to know what truly made people happy. Most assumed it would be money, status, or health. But do you know what the researchers found? It was purpose. Not pleasure, purpose. Those who lived for something bigger than themselves, who took on stress in the pursuit of meaning, were not only more fulfilled, they were physically healthier, their brains aged slower, their immune systems were stronger. Purpose is the antidote to despair. Now, I'm not telling you to burn yourself out for the sake of ego. I'm telling you to choose your stress wisely. Because here's the truth. You're gonna suffer either way. You can suffer the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. You can sweat in the gym or bleed in the mirror of self-loathing. You can face the stress of building or the stress of never becoming. The difference is that one form of stress gives you power, the other steals it. I remember working with a young entrepreneur who was on the verge of giving up. He'd been grinding for 3 years, no profit, sleepless nights, endless rejections. He came to me and said, "I just want to be happy again." I looked him in the eye and said, "You don't want happiness, you want relief." Happiness and relief are not the same. Relief is temporary, it's a chemical sigh. Happiness is earned. It's the deep satisfaction of knowing you didn't quit when it would have been easy to. 3 years later, his company was valued at $80 million, 0 cents. When I asked him if he was happy, he said, "I'm exhausted, but I've never felt more alive." That's what the world doesn't tell you. Stress, when aligned with purpose, becomes fuel. It's the biochemical bridge between who you are and who you're meant to be. Your brain is designed to adapt, to strengthen under strain, like muscle fibers that tear and rebuild stronger. Avoiding stress doesn't protect you, it weakens you. There's something else most people don't understand. The human brain craves challenge. It's wired for conquest. When you achieve something difficult, your brain releases not just dopamine, but oxytocin and endorphins, chemicals that create connection, confidence, and calm. That's why the stressed winner can appear at peace even in chaos. His stress has meaning. His cortisol and his clarity coexists. He's trained his mind to transmute chaos into control. Meanwhile, the happy loser spends his life chasing easy dopamine hits, scrolling, eating, watching, numbing. His brain becomes addicted to low-effort pleasure. It's a biochemical prison, a loop of cheap highs followed by deeper lows. And then he wonders why he feels empty. The truth is, he's starving for challenge. His brain has forgotten what real accomplishment feels like. Let me give you a real-world example. In 1953, Edmund Hillary climbed Mount Everest, the first man to do it. When he was asked why he risked his life for a mountain, he said, "Because it was there." That's not madness, that's biology. The drive to conquer, to stretch beyond the edge of the possible, is hardwired into human DNA. It's the same drive that built cities, cured diseases, and sent rockets into space. Without it, we'd still be living in caves. Stress is the price evolution demands for progress. Now, don't misunderstand me. Chronic stress without purpose is destructive. It corrodes the body, shortens lifespan, damages relationships. But intentional stress, guided by vision and discipline, does the opposite. It forges resilience. It makes you anti-fragile, a term coined by Nassim Nicholas Taleb, meaning you don't just survive chaos, you grow from it. The stressed winner is anti-fragile. The happy loser is fragile. One bends and becomes stronger. The other breaks under his own comfort. Ladies and gentlemen, life is pressure. The universe doesn't care about your feelings. It rewards momentum. You either adapt or you decay. And the irony is, the people chasing happiness most desperately are the ones who end up the least fulfilled. Because happiness, like success, is a byproduct, not a goal. It's what happens when you're in motion towards something that matters. It's the residue of progress. So when you ask yourself, should I be a happy loser or a stressed winner? You're really asking, do I want comfort now or fulfillment later? Every legend you admire chose the latter. Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Oprah Winfrey, Nelson Mandela, none of them lived stress-free lives. They lived mission-driven lives. They traded peace for purpose. They understood that the price of impact is pressure. I once studied the brain scans of entrepreneurs during decision-making. Do you know what I found? The neural patterns in their brains were identical to those of elite athletes before competition. Heightened focus, elevated cortisol, synchronized firing in the prefrontal cortex. Their brains weren't calm, they were ready. That's the optimal state of performance, controlled chaos. The goal isn't to eliminate stress, it's to harness it. And that's what separates the few from the many. The many seek relief, the few seek mastery. The many pray for calm seas, the few learn to sail through storms. The many read about success, the few live it, breathe it, bleed for it. And while the many sit in comfort, envying those who rise, the few stand on the mountaintops, shaking, sweating, exhausted, but free. Because freedom doesn't come from peace. It comes from discipline. It comes from doing what others won't so you can live how others can't. It comes from facing the demons of fear, doubt, and fatigue and saying, you don't own me. The stress winner isn't addicted to success. He's committed to evolution. He understands that growth is a lifelong war and that happiness is found not in the absence of battle, but in the pursuit of victory. And make no mistake, every win has a cost. The only question is, are you willing to pay it? Are you willing to trade your comfort for your calling? Are you willing to carry the weight that greatness demands? Because the world doesn't need another happy loser smiling in mediocrity. It needs warriors willing to endure the stress of becoming who they were born to be. And here's the irony that most people will never understand. The very stress you're trying to escape is the key to the happiness you're chasing. Your body and mind are built for challenge. Every cell in you is designed for adaptation. When you feel stress, your system is signaling readiness. It's your biology preparing you for growth. But society taught you to run from it, to medicate it, to dull it, to call it bad. You were told that peace means the absence of challenge. No, peace means the mastery of challenge. The brain's prefrontal cortex, the command center of reason and focus, sharpens under stress. This is why elite performers seem calm under pressure. It's not because they don't feel stress, it's because they've trained with it. The fire doesn't scare them anymore, it fuels them. The happy loser spends his life trying to lower the temperature of that fire. The stressed winner learns how to cook with it. He transforms anxiety into energy, tension into traction. When I work with professional athletes and CEOs, I saw a pattern. The most successful ones didn't have fewer problems. They had better interpretations of those problems. To the average person, a setback feels like punishment. To a winner, it feels like feedback. That shift in perception. Stress is a signal instead of a sentence. Changes everything. There was a neuroscientist at Stanford, Dr. Kelly McGonigal, who did fascinating research on stress. She found that stress only harms your health if you believe it does. If you see stress as toxic, your blood vessels constrict, your immune system weakens, and your lifespan shortens. But if you see stress as preparation, those same physiological changes, heart racing, adrenaline surging, actually strengthen you. Your body responds differently because your mind does. In other words, it's not stress that kills you, it's how you interpret it. And that's where the real battle happens. Not out there in the marketplace, but in here between your ears. The war between comfort and conquest. Every day your brain asks the same question: do we play safe or do we grow? Safety feels good, growth feels dangerous. But the only time your brain rewires itself, the only time it forms new connections, is when it's under tension. Growth requires discomfort. Just like a muscle, it must be stretched, torn, rebuilt. You can't biohack your way around that fundamental truth. Let me tell you a story about two men I coached early in my career. Both were brilliant and both ambitious. The first one, we'll call him Adam, wanted balance. He said, I don't want to be rich if it means being stressed. The second, let's call him Marcus, said, I'll take the stress if it means I never have to settle. 10 years later, Adam was still happy, still meditating, still journaling, but still broke. Still in the same apartment, still telling himself that peace was his prize. Marcus, on the other hand, built a global logistics firm. He worked 80-hour weeks, missed birthdays, fought through anxiety attacks, but now he employs hundreds, donates millions, and mentors others to do the same. When I asked him what it was all for, he said, for freedom, for choice, for the luxury of giving. Now you tell me, which man lived a fuller life? The one who stayed safe or the one who dared to carry the weight of stress and build something extraordinary? Here's what people get wrong about stress. It's not an emotion, it's a form of energy. And energy is neutral. It's how you direct it that matters. Stress can either build empires or destroy them, depending on your mindset. The same adrenaline that fuels panic can fuel performance. The same cortisol that causes burnout in one person can sharpen resilience in another. The difference is purpose. Without purpose, stress becomes poison. With purpose, stress becomes power. And make no mistake, purpose isn't found in meditation retreats or self-help books. Purpose is discovered in friction, in resistance, in the trenches of doing what matters when it hurts. That's why the happiest people you'll ever meet aren't the ones who have it easy. They're the ones who've earned it hard. Their joy has depth because it was carved out of struggle. Think about mothers. Every mother knows what I mean. Childbirth is the most stressful, painful experience a human can endure. Yet it's also one of the most meaningful. Why? Because the stress had purpose. The pain birthed life. The same neurochemicals that trigger agony also release oxytocin, the bonding hormone. That's biology's way of telling us meaning transforms pain. That's not philosophy, that's neuroscience. So when I tell you to choose the path of the stress winner, I'm not glorifying burnout. I'm glorifying becoming. There's a difference. Burnout happens when you chase goals that don't align with your values. Becoming happens when your stress is in service of your purpose. One drains you, the other refines you. I've seen this in brain imaging. When people pursue something deeply meaningful, whether it's art, business, or service, their brain's reward circuitry stays active through stress. The dopamine doesn't crash afterward, it sustains. That's what creates resilience. It's why people who have meaning in their lives recover from trauma faster, live longer, and even heal from disease more effectively. Their stress is coherent. It's organized around a why. The happy loser, however, has incoherent stress. It's scattered. It's social media, envy, financial insecurity, regret, comparison, guilt. That kind of stress erodes the mind because it lacks focus. It's entropy, energy without direction. It's a storm with no compass. But the stress winner's energy is aligned. Every sleepless night, every obstacle, every hard conversation serves a vision. It's pain with purpose. Let's be brutally honest. The reason most people choose the happy loser path isn't because they value peace. It's because they fear failure. They'd rather convince themselves that comfort is enlightenment than admit they're scared to take the shot. Fear disguises itself as wisdom. I'm being realistic, they say. No, you're being afraid and calling it balanced. The world doesn't need more balanced mediocrity. It needs intense, committed, focused individuals who are willing to lean into discomfort and make something happen. I remember meeting a man who once told me he quit his startup because he couldn't handle the stress. He said, it wasn't good for my mental health. But a few years later, I met him again. He looked older, not from overwork, but from regret. He said, I thought quitting would make me happier. It didn't. It just made me empty. He wasn't a bad person. He just misunderstood the nature of happiness. Happiness doesn't come from ease, it comes from engagement. The absence of struggle is not joy, it's numbness. Every time you avoid stress, you rob yourself of resilience. And the more you avoid it, the weaker your tolerance becomes. It's like emotional atrophy. Your stress threshold drops, and suddenly even small challenges feel overwhelming. That's why the happiest people aren't the ones with no problems. They're the ones who've learned to handle big problems. Because big problems mean big life. Now, I want you to imagine something. Imagine your life as a scale. On one side, you have comfort, on the other, capacity. Every time you choose comfort, your capacity shrinks a little. Every time you choose challenge, your capacity expands. Over years, that scale determines who you become. The happy loser dies small, safe, comfortable, untested. The stress winner dies big, scarred perhaps, but fulfilled, knowing they used everything they had. You see, what we're really talking about here isn't stress or happiness, it's potential. Your brain, your body, your spirit. They're built for expansion, but expansion requires pressure. Diamonds don't form without it. Neither does character. That's the law of the universe. Pressure produces power. When I was younger, I watched a close friend take two very different paths in the span of a decade. He was a musician, brilliant but fearful. At first, he refused to perform live because he said the anxiety was too much. "I just want to make music for myself," he'd say. Meanwhile, another friend, less talented but braver, went on stage night after night, shaking, sweating, sometimes failing miserably. Fast forward 10 years, the first one was still happy, still at peace, but completely unknown. The second filled arenas. The difference wasn't talent, it was tolerance. The ability to hold stress without breaking. That's what success is. Stress tolerance. The ability to stand in the storm without running. The nervous system of a champion is trained, not born. That's why high achievers meditate, not to escape stress, but to reprogram the response to it. They use stress as signal, not enemy. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're waiting for life to feel easy before you act, you'll die waiting. Easy is an illusion sold to those who've given up. The truth is, you will always be balancing two pains, the pain of discipline and the pain of regret. The only difference is timing. One pain weighs ounces, the other tons. So yes, choose to be the stress winner, because stress will find you anyway. The only question is, will it find you building something meaningful or hiding from it? Will it find you creating or complaining? Will it find you pushing your limits or protecting your excuses? Because the day you make peace with stress, the day you stop fearing pressure and start using it, that's the day you take control of your destiny. The universe bends to those who refuse to bow to comfort. It always has. And when it's all over, when you look back on your life, you won't remember the nights you slept peacefully. You'll remember the nights you stayed up fighting for something that mattered. You won't cherish the days you were calm. You'll cherish the days you conquered chaos. You won't admire yourself for being comfortable. You'll respect yourself for being capable. And that, my friends, is the ultimate paradox. The stressed winner doesn't just win. He finds a deeper, fiercer form of happiness, a happiness born not from ease, but from evolution. A happiness that can stand in fire and smile because it knows it earned every flame. That's the choice before you tonight. A life of shallow peace or a life of powerful purpose. A happy loser or a stressed winner. Choose wisely, because your brain, your future, and your legacy will live with the choice you make.